tried to get good grades in high school, which means that oftentimes I challenge myself with taking many college level courses. It is even more important to surround yourself with people who you know you can learn and grow from. And this is especially important for me in boarding school. Lots of kids that are academically strong and academically passionate, which I'm quite lucky to be in an environment around. Hey, I'm Justin. I am currently a sophomore at Johns Hopkins University studying international studies and economics, and went to the Loomis Chaffee school for high school. I think this can be categorized into two broad things that I did in high school: the boring stuff and the not so boring stuff. Firstly, what does the boring stuff look like? It's probably me, like many other students, tried to get good grades in high school, which means that oftentimes I challenge myself with taking many college level courses, and specifically topics that also suited my interests better. So for example, I really enjoyed politics and international relations throughout high school, so I took many classes that were surrounding that. For example, we had college level immigration and some classes on history, and those were also lots of courses that I tended to enjoy and spent most of my time taking. The not so boring stuff, I think just generally, even outside of the college process, it's okay and good to take some breaks. If you know that you're in a boarding school system, I think that generally the schedule is pretty rigid. You have, for example, classes from 8 to 3, and then you have extracurriculars from 3 to 5, and then you have to go to study hall until 7. So whenever I had free times, I did things like hung out with my friends, played games with them, went to gym to play basketball, etc. And I think that's also really important, trying to have some kind of work-life balance with getting your classes done and also having fun with your friends. After all, it's high school. College is infinitely more stressful. The second thing is also generally just to be able to pursue your interests outside of the classroom, to doing things like clubs. As for me, firstly, I was the opinions editor of the student newspaper, and secondly, I was also the editor-in-chief and the founder of Hourglass, which was an international relations journal that I created within Loomis. Basically had lots of regional focuses on different parts of the world, and specifically had thematic focuses each semester. For example, if the theme of this semester is war and peace, I generate many topics around this theme and then encourage students to write about this, which was a club that I think was pretty successful on campus. First, I had to be proactive in many of these instances, right? I think generally kids are quite good at identifying hobbies, right? Given that you guys are high school students, you're relatively talented, you've done a lot of things to get here in the first place, which probably means that you already have some kind of topic of interest, right? Maybe you're interested in science, maybe you're interested in English. I think many kids stop when they realize that, this might not be offered here. So I think my first advice the way I created my schedule and the way I tried to maximize high school is to put yourself out there and put yourself in a position where you're able to manifest the most of these passions, because comparatively, if you weren't to take on these interests and were to settle for something that is significantly more boring, you yourself will likely also be bored because you just don't think these suit your interests. The group of people surrounding you also aren't as into this thing as you are. Therefore, it's likely to quite boring, and your passion for these subjects are likely to fizzle out quite quickly. But there are also a second group of people that I've encountered quite frequently, which was kids that generally might not have as much of a passion for anything and will be like, oh no, this means I don't have a spike for college applications. I think generally the way in which you do navigate high school through this is to try to find an interest in something, even if it's relative. So if it's a teacher that really intrigues you, or if there's a topic that intrigues you, at some point, this doesn't have to be really complicated, right? If you think the teacher's nice, or even if you think there might be a certain subject where you find yourself enjoying the readings a little bit more than the other subjects, those I think always are avenues where you can be significantly more proactive and avenues for you to be able to explore your own interests. And oftentimes having a variety of options or going deeper rather than exploring lots of different things when you have to pick one or the other is often more important, because that's often how you are able to actually decide your passions, right? For example, if I only see this one math teacher and I'm like, the math teacher was horrid and therefore I'm not gonna do math anymore, I don't think that's the most accurate conception of the subject in comparison to if you think you might be a little bit interested in math and then take more math courses. Given that there's a variety of samples that you can look at, you might be more definitive on whether or not you enjoy the subject, and therefore actually allows you to make somewhat of a better choice into what you want to major in, into what you want to spend most of high school on, which is probably also quite important. I want to talk about the groups of friends that you surround yourself with in high school. And I think this is like especially important for kids such as me, who I think are quite heavily influenced by the people around them or like what their friends tend to do. For example, if my friends want to play basketball, I will 99% of the time go play basketball no matter what work I have, which is also quite bad. Don't do that. But if you are somebody like me who knows that they are quite influenced by the environment around them, I think it is even more important to surround yourself with people who you know you can learn and grow from. And this is really important in two ways. Firstly, in an academic way, I think this allows you to explore your own interests, and this is especially important for me in boarding school, right? So for example, in Loomis, I think there are lots of kids that are academically strong and academically passionate, which I'm quite lucky to be in an environment around, because therefore it allows me as a person to also not have to hide the fact that I really enjoy this academic subject, rather than to hold things back. Whereas in comparison to those that I've gone to in the past, doing things like being interested in an academic topic might be considered nerdy or something that's not socially acceptable for people, and they're therefore less likely to pursue those types of passions, which I think is probably not the best thing. Therefore, I think I encourage you to look for people who have similar interests as you. The way you do this obviously is by taking classes that interest you, by signing up for as many clubs as possible in the beginning of your high school life, because obviously you can dial down on those or pick the 1 or 2 clubs that you really want to be leaders in, and that also preemptively allows you to figure out the best group of people who have similar interests as you and could potentially become friends.